Welcome into 104.5 The Zone. Hope you're off to a great start. Goodness, we got some breaking NFL news right out of the gate. Is it laser light show worthy, Jackson? Do we need it? From Adam Schefter of ESPN, less than an hour ago, the New York Jets have fired coach Robert Saleh after starting the season 2-3. They went to London. They lost to the Vikings. He didn't get fired Lane Kiffin style on the tarmac. They gave it a couple of days before they ultimately canned him. But Robert Saleh, the head coach of the New York Jets, is the first one off the board this NFL season. Color me shocked. Who could see this coming?
Everyone.
Can I get a little reckless speculation sound back there, please, if you wouldn't mind? Thank you. Yeah, this has Aaron Rodgers written all over. Do I even need to recklessly speculate?
No, I don't think that was necessary.
It is Jackson. That's Jackson Williams. Lucas is out all week. We're with you until 1 o'clock. You know the whole spiel, 615-737-1045. If you want to get involved, you also have the F&M Bank chat on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. That reminds me that I forgot the polls this morning. Don't worry, I'll get to them here in just a second. Bad job out of me.
1 for 2.
Yeah, there's things going on this morning, okay? There's a lot of moving parts this morning. I'll get there. 20-36 across his time as the New York Jets coach. It is the worst winning percentage in Jets franchise history among coaches who managed to make it at least 40 games into an NFL season or into an NFL tenure as a head coach. But their defense, because he is a defensive-minded head coach, is not the problem. The offense, with the quarterback that's supposed to be the savior of the franchise, is wretched. It's terrible. And it's getting got by Brian Flores in London on Sunday, where Andrew Van Ginkel is taking a pick six to the house, because of course it is.
You're telling me the great minds of Nathaniel Hackett and Todd Downing aren't enough for Aaron Rodgers?
Oh, that's right. Titans legends. Keith Carter there. You also have, Titans legend Todd Downing. Nathaniel Hackett didn't pass through here during his NFL coaching career, but Todd Downing is there. Keith Carter is there. Tony Dews, the former Titans running backs and tight ends coach, is there. Jeff Ulbrich is going to be the new or interim head coach. He is their defensive coordinator. Apparently, according to reports, he is beloved in the facility by coaches and players alike. Can anybody fix the Jets? Anybody? Is anybody capable of fixing the New York Jets? You have the dark comedy, because after the fact, Aaron Rodgers probably wouldn't be able to find this funny. I would understand if he did not find this funny, but there is some kind of just horrifyingly dark humor in Aaron Rodgers in his first season with the New York Jets, running out of the tunnel with the American flag in hand at a packed house at MetLife Stadium and popping an Achilles 4 plays into the start of his career there. It's a cursed franchise. How many franchises are truly cursed? Because I think the Browns and the Jets are up there. Titans fans probably think they have some share of that too, but at least you went like that's kind of the way that I view the Titans franchise, and the way that, because this is one of the most unhinged fan bases in the NFL, rightly or wrongly. And I wonder if Titans fans knew at the onset of when this team moved from Houston, if you told them that they would go to the Super Bowl in one of their first few years of existence, that you would have a co-MVP at quarterback and you would have one of the best running backs in the history of the sport all on your roster all at once as soon as the team came to town, but you would never make it back, right? Or at least you haven't made it back in the 26 years. Would they take that Super Bowl run if it cost you the rest of the mediocrity that has been largely this 26 years? They're not quite cursed though, right? Titans fans don't think that their franchise is cursed.
Yeah, it's not nearly as bad as the Jets or the Browns.
No, you can't even possibly imagine. Hell, the Dolphins have a greater claim to curse than you do, because they have the undefeated season for all time in the 70s, but since then they've been a bit of a laughingstock, and the thing that was supposed to carry them to greatness, Mike McDaniel and Tua Tagovailoa, they're currently in shambles, but they're still in the division because they won a football game. on Sunday. I don't know if anybody's capable of fixing the New York Jets. I can't imagine what it feels like to be a Jets fan. I can't imagine what the logic here is. They're not tanking. They're all in, right?
Oh, yeah.
They're still thinking about trading for Davante Adams, according to Diana Rossini. She's going to be on the radio show on Thursday because now, I'm still going to write an article for A2ZSports.com about trading for a player on the Jets. I think the Titans should trade for a player on the Jets. We'll talk more about that probably tomorrow when I've had more time to collect my thoughts, because this is new information that would impact directly whether or not that player is still available via trade or is more available via trade, if this impacts it at all. But they can't tank. And I'm not somebody who advocates for tanking, but it's not like they're going to bottom out. They've still got Aaron Rodgers. This is supposed to be their Super Bowl season. I picked them to go to the Super Bowl.
Pick's looking great.
Yeah, I've still got Rookie of the Year. I've still got Jaden Daniels. I'm going to ride that one into the sun. But the rest of it, the Packers and the Jets in the Super Bowl, that looks like it might be a bit fraught through the first month of the NFL season. But still, this is I think a lesson that we gloss over too much when it comes to talking about NFL teams. None of it actually matters. The only thing that matters is what the owner thinks at any given point. Like that, you live and die at the whim of these 32, I guess 31 if you count Green Bay, or if you don't count Green Bay, 31 NFL owners who have complete control over these things because they are their playthings. So it doesn't matter how good your coach is or how bad your quarterback is. If the owner says start him, or that's my guy, or that's no longer my guy, then that's what they get because they paid for it. This is their thing. And Woody Johnson, man, I don't question his interest in winning, the Jets owner, but there are so many owners who get too involved with how the operation of these things work, or get swayed too often by somebody recklessly speculating again, like Aaron Rodgers. Thank you. That it impacts everything, all the best laid plans, everything that Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh have been working towards over the course of the last seasons that they were put in place to do their jobs. None of it matters if the owner wakes up one morning and says, you know what, enough.
I'm done with it.
It's like the scene in Toy Story where Andy throws Woody away into the box of cast aside toys. I'm done with it.
I don't want to play with you anymore.
I don't want to play with you anymore. It happens. It happens all the time, and it's one of the least discussed things in professional sports because the owners don't make themselves available to be covered the way that everybody else has to be covered in the NFL. Rightfully so, because they don't want anybody questioning their decision-making, nor do they have to, it seems. So, if you think that your franchise, whether you be a Titans fan, most of you are, within the sound of my voice, Steelers, Cowboys, whatever, at least you're not the godforsaken New York Jets, because they are an absolute hell. Now, how long does it take for Woody Johnson to try and hire Bill Belichick?
20 minutes. Probably already on the phone.
You think he tries to secure Bill Belichick before we even get to the month of November? You can't hire him this season. It's not like a free agent acquisition. You can't just hire Bill Belichick and drop him in there mid-season, can you?
I'm sure you could.
I need to refresh myself on the rules with all that, but still, just laughingstock, perpetual laughingstock, the New York Jets. And again, this is unsurprising, but it still makes absolutely no damn sense. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in on the conversation. We'd be happy to have you. We'll start with Chris this morning. Hey, Chris.
Hey, guys. How you doing this morning?
Good.
Awesome. So, I understand the Jets' frustration with the record that Robert Saleh has had since being there in New York. But if you're a team that's trying to turn it around and you're trying to trade for Davante Adams and everything, making a move like this it just screams panic mode. And if I'm Davante Adams, I'm no longer interested in joining the New York Jets, even if my old buddy Aaron Rodgers is there, because it just shows in my opinion, I just think it just shows instability in that franchise. as far as the current state of it. And I would look at a team like Washington. I would love to see him in Washington, but yeah. That's what I think on the Robert Saleh firing, and they apparently like blindsided him with it this morning, according to like MMQB or something. And it was it was something like he showed up to the facility this morning, and he was totally unexpected. It reminds me of Jamal Adams showing up to Hard Knocks, like to the facility on Hard Knocks, and his key card wasn't working. So that's what. It just shows instability. But I also wanted to ask, what's your thoughts on the Shaq Lawson workout that the Titans had yesterday? Like, what would you think about his fit here in Tennessee? And I'll hang up and listen.
Right at the gun, 60 seconds on the clock before you get the Oscars music. Yes, the Titans did work out 2 pass rushers yesterday. We can talk about that here in just a second. We'll continue to take your phone calls. The news of the morning, though, not the Monday Night Football game, but the New York Jets, who just can't get enough headlines, have fired Robert Saleh after starting this season 2-3. Jeff Ulbrich in as the interim head coach. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. The news of the day, the Jets have fired former head coach, Robert Saleh. 2-3 are the Jets so far to start the season. Their latest loss to the Minnesota Vikings in London. And we are going to do NFL headlines in this segment. That, of course, is the biggest NFL headline, though I'm not sure how we're going to do NFL headlines because Lucas isn't here today. So we'll wade through that mess here in just a second. But we're taking your phone calls on this news, 615-737-1045, and basically how you compare it to your favorite NFL team, whether it's the Titans, as most of you in our audience are Titans fans. Generally, just the ownership situation that each team deals with each and every year, and how, at any given point, Woody Johnson or Amy Adams Strunk or Jerry Jones or whomever can just decide, yeah, I've had enough of this, and no matter what you thought your team might be or where you thought your team was headed, these people have the ability to make changes whenever they want to make changes because they do literally own these things. So Woody Johnson makes the decision, I guess, to blindside, according to reports. Robert Saleh this morning with the news that he was going to be let go after a 20-36 start to, or I guess 20-36 tenure across his time with the New York Jets. They have been terrible since Rex Ryan left, since Mark Sanchez was going to AFC championship games. That feels like an eternity ago. And I made the joke earlier about how quickly do you think they're going to call Bill Belichick? Of course, famously, if you are familiar with Bill Belichick throughout the course of his career, he was the Jets coach for a hot second, and then he decided that he didn't want to be the Jets coach anymore because he probably smelled the BS coming before the rest of us did and understood, oh, this thing doesn't work the way that I want it to work or the way that I need it to work to be able to win championships here. I'm out. Let's go to the Patriots.
I believe it was about 12 hours.
615-737-1045 is the number. I think that's longer than Coach Mack was the head coach of the Bears. I think Mack's whole thing is 6 hours, if I remember correctly, and didn't know that he was head coach for 3 of them. Anyway, Robert is the caller, but he's calling about Robert Saleh. So it looks like Robert Saleh on the line. Is that who we're talking to next, Jackson?
Let's find out.
Okay. Robert, you're up next.
Hey, Buck. Missed you last week.
Thanks, bud. Missed you too.
Yeah. I saw on the news where Robert Saleh wore a flag of Lebanon on his Jets jacket during that London game. And, I mean, just being real, 3/4 of the Jets fan base are probably Jewish people. And I think it's funny how it just coincided with that because it was on the national news that he did that, and you can't use an NFL platform for your political things. I thought he was wrong for doing that, and I think that's why he got fired.
Well, be honest, Robert, I missed this headline, but I'm looking it up now. So, I'm reading from the Daily Mail, which is not always the most reputable source, I suppose, but this is a headline that's going across, and the Daily Mail has coverage of it here. Spark controversy during the team's NFL game against the Minnesota Vikings in London on Sunday. Was spotted on the sidelines at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium wearing a Lebanese flag below the Nike logo on the sleeve of his team hoodie. The night before Sunday's game, the first of the NFL's international fixtures in the British capital this season, Israeli bombing continued on Beirut, which is, of course, the Lebanese capital in Lebanon, amid the Israel-Hezbollah war that's going on right now. Okay, so I'm just now seeing the screenshots of it. That's interesting. So, that's not what's being reported right now. And there will be more information that comes out. Is he Lebanese? I know he's Middle Eastern. I'm not sure if he. I'm not sure his specific ethnicity. I know he is Middle Eastern though. Oh, okay. Here it is. Saleh is of Lebanese heritage. Previously wore a similar patch last October, but his decision to bear the flag Sunday raised eyebrows as the anniversary of the beginning of the war in Gaza was just this week. In fact, it was yesterday. For those of you who are keeping track of the news cycle as well. So I don't know whether that was, how much of a factor, if at all, because apparently he's done this before. Now, obviously, there is a more hectic case going on, or a hectic situation going on by the day in the Middle East. And of course, you're hoping that things settle down over there, which feels like a perpetual thing to say, but I say that because I have family in the Middle East too. I don't know. I don't know whether that was a factor in here or not. If that becomes a part of the reporting, of course we'll relay that, but that is something that would be viewed as controversial at this point. But I mean, I don't know. If the guy's Lebanese, am I gonna bury him for wearing a flag of Lebanon on his Jets apparel? Maybe it's because it's on the Jets apparel. Like if he'd have come out in pregame warmups with like a Lebanese patch on his, or a flag pin or something like that on his pregame suit, maybe it's not as big a deal if you put that too close to the team logos. But it's a point that I had not heard about, Robert, so I'm glad that you brought that up because that may, in fact, be something that's going on there. Anyway, 615-737-1045 is the number. You want to do headlines?
Let's do it. Let's give it a shot.
Okay, let's do it.
It's time for NFL headlines with Jackson Williams and Buck Rising.
Or are you doing it? I thought I was doing it. Do you have headlines?
I have headlines prepared.
Okay, let's do it. Give me some headlines.
The Buccaneers are relocating to New Orleans ahead of the Saints game as Hurricane Milton increases intensity.
Okay, that is not...
That's a headline.
So we go from war in the Middle East to start the radio show this morning to devastation in the Southeast, or impending devastation in the Southeast. I mean, it is
That's
a thing.
News.
It's news. It's a thing that's happening. The Buccaneers are moving. After the devastation of Hurricane Helene, Florida's getting ready to get hit again. And the scary part is, so have you, I know you were watching the radar. We had the local news on in here yesterday. For some reason, ESPN is on my television. I'm not sure why I'm not watching The Price is Right this morning, Jackson.
We will change it.
Okay, let's stick to tradition here. Just because other people are interested in watching sports coverage during their sports radio shows does not mean that I don't want to watch The Price is Right. So let's get that corrected. Either way. So, Tampa, St. Petersburg, devastating situation for them. And now they are leaving. They are leaving today in advance of Hurricane Milton. They are heading to New Orleans ahead of their Week 6 game against the Saints. They had hotel rooms that they were able to secure. They were trying to avoid having to take another flight on Saturday. Milton has now strengthened into a Category 5 hurricane with sustained winds of 160 miles an hour over the southern Gulf of Mexico right now. Tampa is bracing for it. St. Petersburg was hit really, really hard by Helene. I was texting Rick Venturi, who's the Colts radio analyst. He's going to be with us on the radio show at some point, provided that he doesn't. But anyway, he has a place in St. Petersburg. He was texting me pictures. The devastation is all over the place, and they still haven't been able, obviously, Helene was 10 days ago. They haven't been able to pick up people's lives since then, and they're getting ready to get hit potentially again. The scary part is how quickly it turned into a Cat 5. Not that I'm any kind of weather expert, but it was being explained to me by the smart people on the Weather Channel yesterday. It was a tropical storm like 24 hours ago, and because the water is so warm right now, apparently the hurricane feeds off the warm water and is spun into a Cat 5 in less than 24 hours. That's terrifying. So keeping everybody in Florida in particular, in the Carolinas where that, I mean, did you talk to Bert? Bert had to drive to North Carolina this weekend for a wedding, and he had to go to Virginia first to get to where he needed to go in North Carolina because their roads have caved in. Their highways have caved in from the devastation of the highway. So a sports headline that obviously has real-life implications, and hopefully everybody in that area has evacuated and will be safe after the devastation of the first hurricane. Can you give me something better, something brighter?
No. Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice needs LCL repair.
Oh, my God.
Expected to miss rest of season.
Just carnage. What are you doing?
What else is there news? Do you have any positive news?
I mean, I don't know. At least give me something that I can make fun of, like Deshaun Watson.
Do we need to do Tuesday Fire?
No. I mean, we are not off to it. Not that I guess the radio show needs to be positive, but we are not off to a hot start here. This does have implications here locally, though, because, Jackson, one of the things that I missed last week was what?
DeAndre Hopkins trade buzz. I wouldn't even call it rumors. I'd call it
trade buzz. Trade speculation. Whether Tennessee would be willing to part ways with DeAndre Hopkins if the right team, i.e. the Kansas City Chiefs, who didn't want to pay Hopkins when he was available as a free agent, didn't want to pay him the kind of money that he was seeking, but now would probably be back in on DeAndre Hopkins if Rashee Rice is in fact done for the year, as is expected right now. They're in a tough spot, man. I don't know. It's too early. It's too early to talk about trading DeAndre Hopkins, right? Or trading anybody. Like teams, we're just through the first month of the season. Everybody now has a win on their record, even the lowly, godforsaken Jacksonville Jaguars. It's too early for the Bengals. It's too early for the Jags. It's too early for the Titans, teams who are at the bottom of the standings, to legitimately think about selling parts, because the trade deadline's pushed back this year. It's into November this year. So you still have three essentially weeks to figure out whether your team is going to be able to salvage some part of your season, or are Titans fans already prepared to sell off pieces? Is that where we're at with this? I don't know what the reaction was last week. How much did you guys talk about this?
We didn't do a lot of trade, like selling the farm talk last week.
I don't think that I'm ready to make that call yet. Here's my thing with this portion of the NFL season, okay? It's just too early to make any super decisive opinions about any of these teams. For example, I don't know how many of them are actually good. I don't know if we're just still working out the kinks through the first month of the season. What I do think is that for teams like the Titans, who finally got right as far as the win column goes, but are still at the bottom of their division, I would probably wait this thing out, especially because for them in particular, with Hopkins in particular, you haven't even played an AFC South game until this Sunday. And you won't play another one until week 12 after that. Who are the most tradable assets on the Titans right now? Or pieces that you would legitimately think about parting ways if this thing bottoms out? Because I don't think it's going to bottom out with this collection of players. But if they get through these next 3 weeks, let's say they go, what are the next three? Is it Indy, Detroit, Buffalo, or Indy, Buffalo, Detroit? I think it's Indy, Buffalo, Detroit. I'll double check the schedule here in a second.
Indy, Buffalo, Detroit.
Yeah, Indy, Buffalo, Detroit. If you go over and you have one win through 7 weeks of football, then yeah, you think about selling parts because your season is lost. If you go 2-1, and those 2 wins are against an AFC opponent, one AFC South, one AFC East, maybe you drop the Detroit game, though there are still tie-breaking implications from the NFC North games. If you go 2-1 in the next 3 weeks, do you sell? If you've got 3 wins through 7 weeks of football.
If you're 3-4, probably not.
I just don't think that they would be willing to do that. In fact, if anything, I think they would still try and pick up pieces and parts. We had a caller call in and ask about the 2 players that the Titans worked out yesterday, and I'll pull up the tweet from Aaron Wilson, who reported the news, because they are bringing in guys to at least test the waters on how much better they can make this defense. Because my position on their defense is this is not sustainable. They don't have a pass rush. You can't continue to lean on Harold Landry almost exclusively that way. So they worked out Shaq Lawson and Terrell Lewis. Lewis is the younger of the 2. Shaq Lawson has had, varying levels of success in his NFL career. Both are interesting. They could probably use 2 of them, honestly, given what their pass rush situation looks like. And that's the thing. Like, if Hopkins is, so let's say even if they're 3-4, who are the most tradable assets on the roster? Is anybody going to trade for Jeff Simmons if he has a bum elbow? Like, that's the thing that stops me first and foremost about Jeff, because Jeff would be the thing that teams want the most. Somebody who can create an interior pass rush more so than a 30-plus-year-old wide receiver. I would expect, especially since they already have Tavondre Sweat and Jeff's expensive. I'm not saying I would do it, but if you said, okay, let's at least have the conversation about moving Jeff Simmons. Are teams even going to be interested in him if he can't, like, I don't know the extent of this elbow injury. If he can't extend his arms all the way as a part of being an interior defensive lineman, like if the ligament is snapped and you're just going to ride it out. I know it's not specifically Tommy John surgery. I think he mentioned, or he went back and clarified on Twitter last week, that was more to do with his UCL, if I'm not mistaken. Again, that's UCL is Tommy John. I don't know anything about Tommy John.
I don't know but like, I don't know what he did to his UCL. I know it's a UCL injury.
But it's not outright the thing that requires surgery, because he told us in the locker room that he was told he didn't need surgery. So that's why I was kind of confused, because when he started talking about Tommy John, I'm like, I don't know anything about this. Again, I don't pay attention to baseball, and I know it's different for a pitcher than it is a defensive lineman, but that's a complicated thing to just kind of toss out there, I feel like.
It's weird because Shohei Ohtani had Tommy John surgery last year, I believe, and he's still an incredible hitter, but he can't pitch for 2 years. So I don't know what the movement is or what different kinds. I mean, he could have a Tommy John injury where for a defensive lineman it doesn't need surgery.
Buckethead tweets us and says, unpopular opinion, if they go over in the next 3 weeks, I say blow it up, everyone on the table, load up on picks. And I would be inclined to agree with that. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm for tanking. That means I'm for selling parts, and I know those things sound like they would be the same, but I'm not for trotting out there just to lose football games. Like, I still think that they should try and be as competitive as humanly possible, but also sell off assets to try and acquire draft picks, because you just need better football players. At this point, you need organically better football players, because you can't just go out and buy a team every year. I mean, they thought they had a legitimately competitive football team, and they went 1-3 in the first month of the NFL season, which shocked them. Legitimately shocked them as an organization. They did not expect for things to look this. I mean, I guess it's not bleak because we're only through September, but for those things to fall that flat, because the turnover situation has been the thing that's killed them. It's not like they're a bad roster. They've just been undermined. No positive headlines in the NFL headline. I don't think I can let you do this again. I think we have to wait until Lucas gets back. At least he mixes in some level of positivity.
I mean, what did you want for positivity?
I don't know. I really just wanted to point and laugh at Deshaun Watson.
He's terrible. You want to point and laugh at him?
Yeah, they should
He's
bench
awful.
him. You want to talk about decisions that owners are making instead of rational decisions that make sense for an NFL organization? They should have benched his ass in week 1. And I know he just settled another lawsuit, the lawsuit that came out against him in September, but still, like, Kevin Stefanski has won Coach of the Year twice. You think he's watching Deshaun Watson's tape and being like, yeah, that's my guy? No, Jimmy Haslam has a knife in his back. Can you recklessly speculate for me again, please?
I don't know if this is reckless speculation.
Yeah, well, we need to do it anyway. Reckless speculation, Jimmy Haslam has a knife in this man's back and saying, no, I paid him $250 million. You better start him on Sunday. You're going to start him until the wheels fall off. Well,
the wheels are falling off.
Turns out wheels have fallen off, kids, and the Browns are legitimately terrible because their quarterback is a disaster. Anyway, that's all I wanted. Do I have things to give away?
No.
Okay. Thanks. What in sports made you say, oh no? 615-737-1045 is the number. We'll get into that. I've got a really good one from vacation. I'm Buck Rising. It's 1045 The Zone. You don't have to keep living with that joint pain. Real, lasting relief is possible with help from QC Kinetics. People here are getting their lives back, getting their mobility back thanks to QC Kinetics. They are the nation's leader in cellular therapies that can revitalize your joints. I'm talking about advanced regenerative medicine, using your own body's healing properties that are highly concentrated and carefully placed in your achy joint, whether it's back, shoulder, or knee pain. These are cutting-edge treatments that require no surgery, no drugs, and no downtime. It's a quick in-office procedure that can get you moving again. These protocols have been developed by medical professionals and under the leadership of Dr. Mitchell Shinecup, a former orthopedic surgeon and a pioneer in clinical regenerative medicine. If arthritic joint pain is keeping you from doing the things that you love, if you've got pain in your knees, hips, back, or shoulder, you owe it to yourself to learn more. So call QC Kinetics in Murfreesboro today for a free consultation. 615-249-4024. That's 615-249-4024. That's right. What in sports made you say, oh no, this week? It's presented by A Moment's Peace Salon and Day Spa. Jackson, you lied to me. We do have stuff to give away.
We do have things to give away.
What do we have?
2 tickets to Tennessee, Florida this weekend.
And a $100 gift card to A Moment's Peace Salon and Day Spa. All you have to do is call us, 615-737-1045, and tell us what in sports made you say, oh no. Do you want me to start?
Go for it.
Have you ever talked in your sleep?
No.
So I don't normally have dreams, okay? Like, do you dream? Do you remember dreams?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sure everybody dreams to some extent. Some people remember their dreams, some people don't. I don't, but I did for some reason all weekend long on vacation. It was terrible. Jackson, I was so concerned about not having Lucas this week to do all the college football news that we were going to have to do after Tennessee lost and Vanderbilt won, that I was in my dream doing the opening segment of the show on Monday and woke up in the middle of the night shouting. I mean, not shouting, but like doing, my voice is not, I'm not quiet, okay? 4 a.m., I wake my girlfriend up next to me because I'm shouting, we got a bunch of college football to get to, 615-737-1045, like I'm getting to the end of a segment. She looked at me like, what is wrong with you? And then afterwards she goes, yeah, I'm surprised that this probably should happen more often than it actually does. That's the first time it's ever happened to me. I was doing a segment in my head about all the college football news during the middle of the night while I was asleep and then woke up just in time to blurt out the phone number. It was one of the most ridiculous things that's ever happened to me. I wish I could make it up. That's what made me say, oh no, this week. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to get in. There's a lot of people who want the opportunity to win some Tennessee, Florida tickets. We'll get to yours here in just a second. We'll get to Jackson's here in just a second since Jackson is currently fielding phone calls. Let's go to Steve up next. Hey, Steve. Did I hit the wrong button,
You
Jackson?
hit the wrong button. I don't know how to fix it.
Ramon, Kayla, Will, the zone. I mean, the whole station thought, oh, this is a playoff quality team.
Who said that?
I'm a Tennessee Volunteer. I'm a Tennessee Volunteers fan.
Who told you this was a playoff caliber team?
Really?
Yeah.
RKW.
Okay. You said the whole station. When did you hear me tell you that you had a playoff caliber team?
Well, hang on. Let me finish. I did not hear you say that.
Okay.
But basically, let me qualify. Basically, the whole station said this could be a playoff quality team. When you draft the Kentucky quarterback as your number one pick, it's over. He is not that quality. They will not win 6 games. It will not happen.
Well, I do think that this is something that a lot of people are optimistic about, Steve. I think anytime you spend that amount of money, you expect to be a contender. And I did not fault people for thinking that they had a contending, maybe not Super Bowl contending, but at least competing for the in the hunt graphic. I think Lucas and I and Jackson have been very consistent on that point, pretty measured. I think this is the first year I've done a record prediction. I think I went 7-10, if I'm not mistaken.
And you just want to be in the graphic for the majority of the season.
That would be progress. If you're competing for a playoff spot, that would be progress. Now, whether or not you got gassed up because you had a fun offseason, it's a reasonable oh no. Do you have one?
Yes, mine is Alabama safety Malachi Moore at the end of the Alabama Vanderbilt
what
game.
A brat.
This dude was crashing out, throwing his gloves, his mouthpiece. He was throwing everything he could get off of his body onto the field during the quarterback kneels. I believe he kicked the football at one point. He just had a epic crash out that made me say, oh no.
I mean, when Vandy is out on the field getting ready to take the knee in victory formation, and he's, screaming and ranting on the side, he's on the field out there. He's a corner, number 13. What's his name? Malachi Moore?
Yes.
Malachi Moore, just screaming and ranting, and then you see, what does he throw? Does he throw his mouthpiece? I thought he reached down and threw the ball afterwards.
He kicked the ball at some point. Also, he was the safety that got beat on the deep touchdown that Diego Pavia threw on the 4th and 1 play.
Unbelievable. 615-737-1045. That's a good one. Let's go to Charlie up next. Remember to stay on hold for the opportunity to win those 2 UT Florida tickets this weekend at Neyland and a $100 gift card from A Moment's Peace Salon and Day Spa. Charlie is next. Charlie.
Oh, hello.
Hi,
How
bud.
you doing?
I'm good.
Listen, I have to go back. I got a minute, so I got to go back and have the people see what I seen. During the Georgia-Alabama game, for some reason, they highlighted the Alabama coach's facial expression through that last half. And you almost have to go back and watch that particular. But when I seen that coach's face, you could tell that he had no way to figure out how to beat Georgia. Now, he was going to lose, but that Williams kid did a great job, saved his job, and that's history. The story is that I was at the YMCA the other day working out, and a fellow with Alabama was there, and he said, I said, your coach kind of looked a little scary to me. He said, we're a team. Everything's okay. My oh no is Vanderbilt beat Alabama. Thank you.
Thank you for the call, Charlie. It's a long way to get there, but yes, it was an oh no moment for the Alabama fan base. Let's go to Austin up next.
Hey, man, my oh no would be Rushy Rice's mom being caught on a Ring doorbell camera stealing a package with her jersey that says Mama Rice or whatever it said on. That's my oh no.
Have you seen this story?
Yes, it's insane.
So she was accused 5 days ago. This got picked up by TMZ, accused of theft months before the alleged package heist. This came out. So there's a neighbor's package at, I don't know if this is Rishi Rice's mom's apartment building or whatever the case may be, but it's not the first time that she's been accused from stealing. She was actually arrested in the spring over similar allegations. Her name is Marcia Kearney, arrested and hit with one misdemeanor count of theft of property greater than or equal to $100 but less than $750, following claims she took a bunch of household items from a man on March 27th. Court documents obtained show prosecutors allege she nabbed 40 items from this person, including food, tumblers, laundry products, merchandise, and socks. She's got the Mama Rice number 4 jersey on. And this Ring camera catches her taking, I think it's I don't know exactly what a limited edition Chapel Roan vinyls from her neighbor's porch is what the Ring camera at their apartment complex in Texas catches her taking. It is, I just don't understand how you're that stupid.
That's fair.
Everybody's got Ring cameras. It's not, I deal with Bert. Bert steals things for a living, not to it's not for a living, literally, but Bert is one of these people that you cannot trust in your home. I feel like every time Bert watches my house when I'm out of town, I'm a little lighter. Something is missing. Reckless speculation. Even though it's not reckless speculation, I've got cameras in my house. I'm on to you, Bert. No. I know. Okay. He ate a $40 thing of chicken salad out of my fridge the last time that he house sat for me. Unbelievable.
How much is $40 worth of chicken salad?
It's not that. It's not that much. It was one of these nice ones from the farmer's market or whatever. So it was a little overpriced. Whatever. But he ate it. I'm assuming with his bare hands because there was chicken salad shrapnel around my kitchen when I got home. And I'm pretty sure he does it naked. I think he's just wandering around my house naked at any given point. Either way. But how are you so dumb? that everybody in the world has Ring cameras now, or whatever your preferred camera doorbell of choice is, no free ads, that you're just going to start taking stuff off people's porches? That's a pretty good oh no. Austin wins the tickets, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. Austin, stay on hold. Jackson will get you set up for your Tennessee-Florida tickets for this weekend and a $100 gift card courtesy of a Moment's Peace Salon and Day Spa. Oh no, every Tuesday at 10:45. College football teams, not as good as their AP Top 25 ranking. We'll talk about it next. Looking for a longer-lasting fog light for your drive? Upgrade to Sylvania LED fog bulbs. Easy-to-install LED fog light bulbs will get you out of the driveway and back onto the road in no time. Sylvania is the guiding light for all of your power sport and fog bulb needs. For a limited time, get a $20 O'Reilly gift card after rebate with purchase of select Sylvania LED fog bulbs plus 2 times O Rewards points. O'Reilly Auto Parts is celebrating the 25th anniversary of their famous jingle, and O'Reilly wants you to be a part of the celebration. We all know how it goes. O'Reilly Auto Parts. We want you to submit a cover of the jingle, a remix of your own choreographed dance, and you can win exclusive merch and prizes, including 3 $5,000 grand prize winners from O'Reilly Auto Parts. Submit your video to O'ReillyJingleContest.com now through October 31st. Terms and conditions apply. No purchase necessary.
It is 11:03. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Jackson Williams. The Jets had breaking news today as they fired head coach Robert Saleh this morning. According to Adam Schefter, Saleh was 20-36 as head coach of the Jets and never made the playoffs. Jets defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich will be the interim head coach. In other NFL news, Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice is expected to miss the remainder of the 2024 season with the knee injury he suffered in Week 4 against the Chargers. Brian Callahan spoke to the media yesterday at St. Thomas Sports Park and gave some insight into Jeff Simmons' elbow injury. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you need to visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Welcome back to the show. Hour number 2 off and rolling. Headline of the day is the New York Jets have fired head coach Robert Saleh. That is something to keep an eye on because it is first blood in the NFL. Most people had it down as Mike McCarthy being the most pre-fired coach in football heading into this 2024 season, but the Jets coach gets the axe, and apparently it was unexpected. We're going to get into more Titans talk later on in the show and kind of where things stand in the AFC. The state of the Titans, essentially, coming out of this bye week and heading into their first AFC South game of this season. Before we do that, though, we can take your phone call, 615-737-1045. You can also interact on the F&M Bank chat, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. I want to spend some time on college football. Tuesdays is normally our days to spend the most time on college football, but Monday having the amount of upsets that it did with, obviously, locally here, Vanderbilt over Alabama, Tennessee falling to Arkansas, and everything else, all the other havoc, chaos, and history that was made for top 25 teams, mostly bad history made for top 25 teams, coming out of this week 6. I thought it was worth taking a look at some college football teams that are not as good as their ranking would indicate. You give a lot of credence to the top 25 poll. I don't typically, because a lot of times I don't think, and I'm not going to claim to be the biggest college football expert or whatever. Lucas is out this week. He's our college football guy, and he was loud wrong about everything this weekend, famously. What was it? Free money? Alabama minus 22.5 free money?
Alabama 22.5 feels like free money.
Oh,
no disrespect.
So pompous. So, anytime I watch college football over the weekend and the AP Top 25 comes out, there's always something that I take issue with because a lot of teams just don't deserve to continue to keep their ranking the way that a lot of teams, I feel like, continue to grift through this. Now, it doesn't matter once we get to the college football playoff selection time, once they start putting out their top 25 rankings. The AP is just an exercise that we go through for the early part of the season before we get into the real meaningful part of it, especially with the new top 12, the 12-team college football playoff that we'll have. But number 1, Alabama falls, stunned by Vandy, the Giant Killers. Commodores' first win over a top 5 team in 61 tries, and their first win over Alabama at all since the 80s. Tennessee was the number 4 team, went to Arkansas and lost. Number 10, Michigan lost to an unranked Washington team. And number 11, USC lost at Minnesota over the weekend. The Minnesota press conference afterwards with the freshman quarterback was hilarious because he was apparently not PR trained quite yet and took out the refs as a part of his answer for a celebration that got flagged. You had A&M making a huge statement at home over Missouri, who were then number 9. They got trounced 41-10. And the AP Top 25 comes out this week. You have a new number 1. It's the Texas Longhorns. That makes sense. Ohio State 2, Oregon 3, Penn State 4. Then you have Georgia, who's already got a loss on the season. It's 2 Alabama. They fall to 5. Alabama slides down below them from number 1 to number 7 after losing to an unranked Vanderbilt on the road. The Hurricanes are 6 after surviving Cal 39-38. That was an electric game. And Tennessee comes in at 8 after previously being 4, losing 19-14 to Arkansas. The defense and the running game, not the problem. The quarterback and the coach, frankly. Heupel and Nico with some significant questions around them at this point. 14 points for Tennessee was their fewest in a game against an unranked opponent since 2020. And Josh Heupel losing a conference game when leading entering the fourth quarter for the first time since 2017. But 8 feels right for Tennessee. They're still a top 10 team, even if you have questions about the quarterback and the coach. The places where I start to have issues are further down. Texas A&M deserves to be 15 after previously being 25. What the hell are the Missouri Tigers still even doing in the rankings? I didn't think they were number 9 coming into that game. They were not favored on the road at College Station, and again, they got wrecked. Brady Cook, their quarterback, has been problematic. I was told he was supposed to be some kind of special. Their issues are pretty layered. I don't think Missouri deserves to be in the top 25. Do you? And then the other part of this is Michigan. The Michigan Wolverines are not the 24th best team in the country. Get them the hell out of here. And it's not just because they lost 27-17 to Washington, who was unranked. Do you know how many passing yards they have through 6 weeks of the college football season heading into week 7? They have less than 700 passing yards as an offense. It's the fewest by any Big Ten team in the first 6 games in the last 20 years. And Big Ten offenses famously are not kind of air raid type of offenses. This is not high volume passing. So it's a pretty low bar to sink below the way that the Wolverines have. They don't have a college football caliber quarterback. I don't understand how the AP goes about putting together their rankings. I guess I could call Teresa Walker and have her answer these questions for me because I know it's a multitude of people that vote on these things. But Michigan and Missouri still being in the top 25, I think, are the biggest frauds in the top 25. Is there a team in the top 10 that feels a bit fraudy? Clemson at 10, Ole Miss at 9. Again, Tennessee, Alabama, Miami, Georgia, Penn State, Oregon, Ohio State, and Texas, 8 through 1. You got a huge game between Ohio State and Oregon this week between number 2 and number 3. Penn State is going to play USC, who fell out of the top 25 after suffering the loss to Minnesota. Miami has survived based on officiating and by the grace of Cam Ward, frankly, because they orchestrated a comeback after falling behind 35-10 that I thought they had no business coming back to win. But officiating has been a big part of their last 2 games. I'm not saying that Miami still isn't a top 10 team, but I don't know if they're the 6th best team in the country with some of the issues that they've had exposed. And I feel like, doesn't 8 feel right for Tennessee after that loss and the questions that you have right now? Because they're still a good team. They're still a top 10 team. But we'll see. 615 Florida Week. Huge for them. Mike Felder of Stadium and Bleacher Report is going to join us coming up next. Chris Doering, the former Florida wide receiver, is also going to be on the show tomorrow. You can watch him, of course, on the SEC Network. I know he has some thoughts. But we'll talk about who feel like the most fraudulent teams right now in the top 25 and whether Felder at all gives any credence to this top 25. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Oh, it makes me happy to see Mike Felder of Stadium and Bleacher Report on my screen. He's here to help us understand how the hell it was that Vanderbilt went out and out-schemed Alabama. We're going to talk some college football with him. Buddy, it's good to see you. At In the Bleachers is where you follow him. Thank you for making some time.
Dude, it's good to be here. And I'm this far away from hitting publish on the Substack. It's felder.substack.com. Because I literally rewatched the game, and one, Diego Pavia, he do it for mi gente. Love it. Love that dude, man. And but they did a lot of things. You mentioned scheme immediately, and so I'll start with that. And hang on. It's water. It's not even coffee. I'm just drinking water. Got to stay hydrated.
Got to stay hydrated in these streets, Mike. You know this.
But the reality for me is, there's a progression in this game, and I love that Vanderbilt was able to work this progression where the first touchdown that they score, he reverses out, and Alabama doesn't go with him. He hands it off, reverse out on the handoff. Okay, cool. And then we see them start to run the option. And they start the option with just a two-man option. It's a speed option. Boom. No problem. Okay. Then we get into that triple option. And that triple option was not the not the basic, like Paul Johnson, like give, keep, pitch. It was run, pitch, or shovel. And then that turned into this long option, which I've really loved. We saw it at Wake Forest as well. This long option, Buck, has been, I mean, it's a revelation in college football. I think it's really cool to watch, where essentially you set up a screen to your, we'll put it in perspective. You set up your screen to your right. Running back screen to the right. Okay, that's your give. Quarterback can then turn left and go run. And as he turns left to go run, and we saw this on one of their touchdowns, Pavia turns left to go run. Uh-oh. They cover him. They know that this is a problem. Oh, there's a guy standing over there. He just throws the football to him. Now we have a touchdown. That's the pitch. It's a double-sided option. It's a Swiss Army knife. It's a great scheme, great game plan. And it's one of those things that defense are going to have to figure this out. And because Alabama has a lot of young guys, with the exception of Lawson, really, they got a lot of young guys, specifically in the secondary. Those guys, they're not as disciplined as they have been or could be, and that's going to be a problem.
At In the Bleachers is where you follow him. Like he mentioned, you can read all his thoughts on Substack. It's felder.substack.com. Mike Felder is here with us breaking down the just electric college football weekend. We'll talk about the rest of these games here in just a second. But just the way that they were getting the Alabama defenders, to your point, Mike, to over-pursue and get out of their lanes and look, I mean, not necessarily undisciplined, but undisciplined with their eyes in particular was the thing that I loved. And at a certain point, though, Mike, they were the more physical team. Like, that is not something that I'm accustomed to seeing from any Vanderbilt squad, and certainly not against Alabama. It was the combination of scheme and physicality that it was the definition of a trap game. And Vandy, they've been doing this all year. They've been competitive. They've given away a couple of games here. You could make the case that Vanderbilt should be one of these undefeateds, which is crazy to think about given what Clark Lee has done.
So here's the thing. When you know what you're doing, it's easy to do it. When you have a play, if you have a recipe, it's easy to cook. And when someone that's why Chopped is such a great show, right? They have no idea what has to happen. And then you get to see how people respond to things. And Alabama didn't respond very well. So they got chopped. So the big thing for me when I watched them play, I'm watching this game, and again, I've watched it more than once, and watching it, you get to see that if it sticks to the script, if it goes by the book, Alabama should win this game handily. But then you get something else. You get a secret ingredient thrown in. That option, right, that we've talked about already. You see that secret ingredient thrown in, and then all of a sudden you're like, I don't I've never cooked with this before. I don't know, what does this do? And that's what it was, especially for those young guys for Alabama. And I will say this, Ryan Williams, I think he had himself a ball game. Jalen Milroe, I think, also had a ball game. Obviously, turnovers notwithstanding. But at the end of the day, I will say this, and I will say this, this is the most paramount point to me. Vanderbilt won this football game. They won this football game by getting the big bully. It's David and Goliath. And you know what? Screw that. You know, have you ever seen 3 O'Clock High?
No.
Oh, dude. Has anyone that's on this ever seen 3 O'Clock High?
Jackson?
Come on, someone.
I just got such a blank stare. The chat is going to probably roast us, Mike, because I'm certain that the people on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and Twitch have seen it. But, I'm not the person you go to for pop culture stuff.
It's a kid who's on yearbook staff who accidentally somehow rubs this new kid the wrong way. The new kid is this bully who's been to like juvie. He rubs him the wrong way. And then the new kid is like, I'm fighting you at 3 o'clock. 3 O'Clock High, we're getting into a fight. And Vanderbilt was Jerry. Alabama was the other guy. And at the end of the day, Bama was laying on the ground, splayed out. And they were done. And it was like they won. Vandy won this football game. Every time I see Alabama loss, I'm like, no, man, you're centering the wrong team.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt won this football game. They won this game. And to go back to your point about them they're out-muscling them, Alabama, when you don't know where you're going, when you're not sure what to do, when everything that you've been told seems wrong, all of a sudden you stop moving. When you stop moving, you know this as well as I do, right? When you stop moving your feet in football, when you stop moving fast, when you stop going downhill, when you stop doing the stuff you expect, when you can't expect the unexpected, now all of a sudden you become vulnerable. Now you are the guy that gets sat on their behind. Now you're the guy that's a bug on the rug. And that's what Alabama was on Saturday afternoon.
I want to ask you about Tennessee and Arkansas next before we talk about the rest of these upsets, because Mike, I'm never, whether it's covering the Titans or talking about college games from time to time, the way that we do around here, play calling is something that I'm always reticent to criticize because I'm not qualified. I don't think anybody who's not in the meeting rooms is qualified to legitimately criticize play calling with good, well-made points. But when I watch the Tennessee Vols offense right now, two things come to mind for me. Predictability is one, and two, a lack of complete trust from the coach in the quarterback, who is this incredibly talented player who is young and inexperienced, young and inexperienced to this point in his college career, but still has a lot more to give here that I don't think that they are letting him. I don't think they're letting him play freely, and I think that's a hindrance. They haven't scored 14 points for a Tennessee offense is criminal, prison.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head with respect to what they're letting him do, and that's the key. And I really think that is the big deal. But but this is not just a one game thing. Outside of the Chattanooga game, what's his passing situation look like?
It's been pretty reserved.
Like, as the kids would say, it's been mid. Right? Like,
I like the motion that you did with that. For those of you watching on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch.
It's been mid. Yeah. Like, they've been getting it done on the ground. Samson, I want to talk to Samson. Like, that's what you're doing. Like, that's the reality of this Tennessee team. And I mean, to throw for 5 yards per attempt, that's not good. Which means they're not letting him throw the ball down the field. Which means they don't trust him to throw the ball down the field. And I do think this, and I've talked about this on College Sports Now, I think the comms are messing with people. Now, you've done TV, I've done TV, you also do radio, I do radio. To have someone in your ear while you're still trying to, like, direct traffic and be yourself is hard. Imagine if you were 18, 19 trying to do that, it's even harder. And I think those, like, I really think if I'm Tennessee, and I'm coming into if I'm Tennessee, and I know what I got on my plate coming up, right? Like, what do they have? They got Florida, Bama, they got Kentucky. A Kentucky team, boy, salty.
Yeah.
They are salty. I want signals. Let's get back to signals. Let's spend some time to get back to signals because we can't wait until, and Arkansas did this. We saw Georgia do it. We've seen many teams are doing this now, where once that 15 seconds hit on the play clock, we watch the defense move. And then all of a sudden, let's say we have a young quarterback like Nico Iamaleava. Well, they weren't where they were when you were talking to me. So what do I do now? I guess it's a run play. And so I think that's going to be interesting. But tip of the cap to Arkansas. They went out there and 19-14, holding them to 14 is a really good move. I just think that I think that Tennessee hasn't opened things up and expanded. And it's not because they don't trust Nico. I think it's because of control, as you mentioned, play calling. And you say play calling, I'll go further. I think it's a control thing. And I think same thing with Ryan Day in Ohio State. I think they want to control the situation to get into perfect plays. And we saw it when pre-coms, we saw it with Check With Me's. Now we're watching it happen when they think they're in a perfect play. Then the defense moves. Now the quarterback just has to do whatever they can. And that leads to mistakes or incompletions or pressures that ultimately end up turning into sacks or turn into, again, incompletions.
It's a well-made point by Mike Felder. At In the Bleachers is where you can follow him. So now with a couple of big games on the docket, we had upsets all over the place. What'd you make? Just quickly, what did you make of that Miami Cal game, Mike? Is it just as simple as they have Cam Ward and the other team doesn't?
What else could it be?
Yeah, because it's not cristobal, bud.
Mendoza, I thought played pretty well.
Yeah,
for Cal. It seems like Ott is finally healthy, and he looked pretty good too. And then we're starting to see Cal they're a player, but Miami, and that's a bad beat, dude. Like Miami going, if you're in South Beach and you got to go to California and play a game at 10, there is no shot, with the exception of Cam Ward, who played at Washington State. There's no shot that these kids have ever played a game that started at 10:30 Eastern. No shot. And so that's a tough one. And I understand it's tough going the other way as well. I talked to my buddy Roddy Jones, and he was like, the hardest part is going to be East Coast teams going to the West Coast playing the late game, or West Coast teams coming East Coast playing the early game. Those are the two rough spots. In the middle, you'll be fine. And so Miami got it done. And obviously, I know Cal fans are upset. There were some really kind of questionable things.
Yeah.
That happened.
I hate that officiating is even remotely a part of the conversation. And for Miami, back-to-back weeks that way.
Yeah, that stinks. But I will say, this is what I've realized. And your listeners can correct me if I'm wrong. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But I think that most people only watch their team and maybe one other big game. And what they don't realize is if you watch over the span of college football, this is what officiating looks like.
Yeah.
It's not good anywhere. It just happens. It's I truly stand, I will stand on this hill. The officials don't care about your team. They're not trying to get Miami to win. They're not trying to get Ohio State to win. They're not trying to get Alabama to win. They're not trying to get Georgia to win. They're not trying to get Texas to win. They're just not good. And I think that's the way we should talk about it, instead of thinking they're against us. No, they're not against you. They want to keep having their job. Can you imagine? I don't mean to call you out. How old are you?
31.
31. Okay, you're younger than me. I'm almost 40. Turned 40 in November.
Happy early.
Can you imagine trying to run around with these kids
Oh, God.
And see small things?
No, buddy. As soon as I turned 30, like everything started to creak. Mike, I wasn't making noises getting in and out of chairs the way that I do now at 30 plus.
Yeah, like so we've got 50-year-old guys, 40-year-old guys out there, men and women. When I say I'm using universal guys, men and women out there running around with 17-year-old Ryan Williams. You're going to see everything? You're going to get it right all the time? Nah. So I just think we have to realize it's not Pac-12 or I guess Pac-2 now, but it's not Big 12, it's not SEC, it's not Big 10, it's not AC, it's not the officials, it's officials as a whole. And I think that's where we have to start talking about it.
Huge slate of games coming up this week in Week 7. I'll start with the obvious, Ohio State and Oregon. From a matchup standpoint, from a tactics standpoint, what stands out? Because I think Ohio State, beyond what Jeremiah Smith is doing, that is discussed nationally, Mike, I think Ohio State is one of these teams that the rest of the country is probably not watching as closely, but deserves a fair amount of attention given what they're getting ready to go up against this weekend.
I spent a lot of time, and I watched that Ohio State and Iowa game to get ready for this game. And the thing I want to see is I want to see Oregon play disciplined defense. If you play disciplined defense against Ohio State, you have a chance to slow them down. And I think the difference is Iowa didn't have the depth. I think Oregon might have the depth to run with these guys the whole way. And Ohio State, they're just hanging around. No one has really watched. They haven't played a marquee game until this weekend. So no one's really paid attention to them. Every game we know is going to be a blowout, but Iowa, first for 30 minutes, looked like a player. 7-0 at halftime. And then you get into the second half, and Ohio State was like, they literally punted on their entire offense and just said, you know what? Just throw the ball far. Can we throw it far? Emeka, are you good if you just run fast? If you run fast straight and then I throw it to you, can we do that? Is that a thing we can do?
Run the touchdown play.
Yeah, and so I think that's going to be really interesting against Oregon. And Dan Lanning's coming in there with they're going to have a blitz package. They're going to have some really interesting things going on. So I'm curious to see what this looks like. They're a dog, right? Aren't they? Oregon's a dog at home.
Oregon is an underdog at home. Yes, correct.
Alton's going to be rocking and rolling. We're going to get to see. I know they don't call him Puddles anymore, but Puddles is going to be out there. So this is going to be interesting. I still don't know how to feel about the. I don't know how to feel about Ohio State. I don't know how I feel about Penn State either, though. Just in that one league, in that conference. I know how I feel about Oregon. I think Oregon is a team that they're thinner than other teams in terms of actual bulk, but I think that they are fast, and I think they're mean. And I think we've never seen a mean Oregon football team. And I think that's going to give Ohio State a little bit of pause. I think Oregon's going to win this football game. I'll say it. No, look at that. First time I've said it all week. It's Tuesday, but it's the first time I've said it.
Wait, quick, take it back and put it behind the paywall on the Substack. Quick, Mike.
I just said it out loud to myself. I think Oregon's going to win, but I think that this team is mean. And they get that from Dan Lanning. Dan Lanning gets it from Kirby Smart. And so I think that matters. So I do think that Ohio State, if you play disciplined defense, imagine if Iowa had a string of backups that were as good as their starters, which is what you see with Alabama, which is what you see with Georgia, which is what you see with all these other teams. If they had a string of backups that were as good as their starters, then that game lasts a lot longer. And Iowa, by the way, their offense is terrible, dreadful, if you will. So we'll go from there. So I think what else? Let's get to another game.
Well, what game is the most interesting beyond that? Because I know people are going to spend the most oxygen on Oregon and Ohio State. What game are you highlighting?
I mean, I just got to see two of my old teammates. Georgia Tech goes to North Carolina. They're playing on the CW.
Yes. A battle on the CW, just like we all envisioned. I love it.
So that was on my radar, but honestly, it's Texas Oklahoma. The Red River, are we calling it the Red River rivalry?
No, it's always the. I mean, listen, Mike, it's an impossible fight out down here not to call it the shootout. People are just going to call it the shootout anyway.
I wanted to be safe.
I appreciate your caution around here, but you know where we are in the state of Tennessee. It's the Red River shootout.
I mean, there's look at the levels to this game. Can Oklahoma's offense show up at all? Can they do anything? That's been the scariest part for Oklahoma. Their defense is good. Their offense, very bad. And I don't care if it's Jackson Arnold or the Hawkins kid. Like, it doesn't matter. They are not very good on offense. And then for Texas, we have this is like a soap opera, right? Quinn Ewers, Arch Manning. Quinn Ewers, Arch Manning. Like, this is like a Willy Won't They whole situation. I don't think it matters. I think Texas is going to go out and I think Texas has big 2019 LSU energy. I don't think they're as good as that team.
Yeah.
But I do think that they have that energy, like this level of swag that is just, it's different. Like, this is not like we listen to country music and hang out. If they're listening to country music, you know what music they're listening to? Shaboozey. Like, that's them. Like, this isn't like
Cowboy Carter.
This is a team that they listen to like Lil Boosie. Like, this team, it seems like they're a team full of guys from Louisiana, which, where's Arch from? So it's wild to see the swag that they bring in. And I'm very interested to see, I'm curious if they can continue that. And I think Sark got some juice. He got some juice from working with Saban. And I think we're going to see that play itself out when he goes up against Venables.
It's Felder.substack.com. At In the Bleachers is where you follow him. He is Mike Felder. He is excellent at what he does, and we are always grateful for his presence. Buddy, I know it was last minute, but thanks for stopping by. We do appreciate it.
No, it's always good, man. You know I love talking to you, Buck.
That's the main man, Mike Felder. Coming up next, we'll pivot back to the NFL. Brian Callahan, the Titans head coach, says there's a job that's still week to week on this roster. I'll tell you what that is coming up next. Hey, it's Buck Rising, and let's be real. Plumbing emergencies always seem to happen at the worst times, whether it's a bust pipe in the middle of the night or your water heater breaking down on a holiday. It can be a total headache. But here's the good news. Benjamin Franklin Plumbing has you covered 24/7. No matter when disaster strikes, their expert plumbers will respond fast. And get this, they guarantee to be on time or they'll pay you for the delay. That's why they're called the punctual plumber. Plus, they've got all the tools and expertise to handle anything from a clogged drain to a major sewer backup. When you call Benjamin Franklin Plumbing, you know you're getting professional, reliable service. So don't let a plumbing emergency ruin your day or night. Keep Benjamin Franklin Plumbing on speed dial and get help whenever you need it. Visit BenjaminFranklinPlumbing.com today to schedule your service or learn more. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. You can also interact on the chat, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. So normally at this time we would do Tennessee high school football heroes. Lucas is out. He's the one that has the contact with the high schools. I felt it would be weird if I just started calling up high schools and asking for high school football children to join a radio show. I didn't think that was in our best interest, Jackson, so I said we'll punt this week while Lucas is out, and high school football heroes will return next week.
A brief pause.
just a brief pause. So, yeah. No cold calls to high school for the football players this week.
They blocked your number.
Probably smart. But Brian Callahan gave a press conference yesterday. He was asked a number of questions, including about Will Levis, his availability. It sounds like Will Levis, provided that he is healthy enough to do his job at a reasonable level, is going to be the starting quarterback against the Indianapolis Colts. Whether or not you think that's the right decision, I think there's some mixed feelings right now about who you'd rather see. But another position that continually gets brought up is, well, it's not just one position, it's the offensive line. But in particular, the offensive line situation at right tackle with Nicholas Petit-Frere. Callahan was asked, in fact, we'll hear from him at his press conference yesterday. Callahan was asked about the right tackle position and if NPF had solidified his starting job after the Dolphins game. This was the Titans head coach.
I mean, he played pretty good Monday night. Again, it was he didn't get put in harm's way too often. We ran the ball pretty much the whole second half. But yeah, I mean, that's to me, that's going to be a week to week thing. And he needs to play well, and keeps playing well, and we'll keep competing. I don't want to put any parameters on that because we'll see, I guess is the best way to put it.
That does not sound like it's NPF's job.
It's his job to lose.
It is his job to lose. And he has lost it already once in a game. He is the best starting right tackle. He is the best right tackle option that they have at their disposal. I don't know. I guess I just don't know what Callahan. You shouldn't give it. You shouldn't blanket statement say, yeah, he's our right tackle until the wheels fall off because he's the best that we can do. You can't take that as approach as a coach. You can't say that out loud, even if that ends up being the way that you have to go about this thing. I mean, could they acquire somebody? Here's the thing about this team that I can't make a determination on yet, and it's pretty important to how the rest of the season is going to go. Are they buyers at the deadline a month from now? These are three very important games to determine that, of course, because, I mean, it's Indy, it's Buffalo, it's Detroit. Three teams. I mean, those are better teams than any team that they have faced, right? There's not a team that they've played to date, not Caleb Williams in his first NFL start, where the only reason the Bears win that game is because you literally give the game away, not Aaron Rodgers at 40 years old, 2 weeks or 2 weeks into a season coming off an Achilles injury, and not Malik Willis, who dusted you with the Green Bay Packers, not Tyler Huntley running a high school offense. Like, here's the thing. The Titans really haven't seen what I consider quality competition yet. Like the defense, I'm not saying that the defense is fraudulent, but the defense, I mean, we can agree this is not the best defense in football right now, even though the counting stats say it's the best defense in terms of total yardage allowed in football right now. You can't possibly be the best defense and not have a pass rush the way that they clearly and obviously do not. So Indy, Buffalo, and Detroit, three much better tests than any that they've seen right now, even if it's later in the season and just the general attrition of health has started to set in with a lot of these teams. Titans have had pretty fortunate injury luck through the first month anyway. Are they considering trying to upgrade at right tackle? Teams are not going to trade away a right tackle, so I just don't know what other options are on the table besides NPF, even if you can't say, yeah, it's his job. I mean, we can't do any better right now. It's his job. Because that's what it feels like to me. But I like the fact that he's non-committal on it. At least they're open to options there. I just don't know what options are going to be able to present themselves between now and the trade deadline. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in. Let's talk about the Titans on the whole. The state of this team coming out of the bye week. I mentioned the defense and how I don't think it's sustainable. We'll cover all of that coming up next. There are so many misconceptions out there about treating erectile dysfunction. That's what the Tennessee Men's Clinic is here for, to help you debunk those. Lots of men assume that if the pills don't work, they have no other options than irreversible surgery to treat their ED. And the sad reality is that if you go to a doctor to treat erectile dysfunction, those may be the only options or protocols that you have available to you. Do not go through irreversible surgery to treat your ED before you have talked to the experts at the Tennessee Men's Clinic. They specialize in men's sexual health issues. It's all they do, and it makes them the experts in the field. They have access to multiple protocols and options to treat your ED based on your specific needs and what's going on in your body. Don't trust your health to an online pharmacy and don't feel like you're out of options. We want you to understand all the options available to you for treating ED. The Tennessee Men's Clinic protocols are patient-centered and customized to your needs. They have treatments for everything from low-T, ED, treatments that increase size and stamina, and everything else in between. So call them at 615-208-9090. That's 615-208-9090, or schedule an appointment online today at TennesseeMen'sClinic.com for their Franklin or Midtown location.
12 o'clock on the dot. Good afternoon from the 104.5 The Zone studios. I'm Jackson Williams. Breaking news out of New York as the Jets have fired head coach Robert Saleh. According to Adam Schefter, Saleh was 20-36 as head coach of the Jets, and they never made the playoffs under his leadership. Jeff's DC, Jeff Ulbrich, will be the team interim head coach. In other NFL news, wide receiver for the Chiefs, Rashee Rice, is expected to miss the remainder of the 2024 season with the knee injury he suffered in Week 4 against the Chargers. Brian Callahan spoke to the media yesterday at St. Thomas Sports Park and gave some insight into Jeffrey Simmons' elbow injury.
Again, everything that we had prior to and at this point is that it needed a little bit of time to heal, and that it would be better in a week's time, it'd be better in 2 weeks' time, and that was the genesis behind the decision to sit him on Monday night. Is that he'd be able to in really 2 weeks' time from the injury would be a much better spot. So ultimately, that's where we landed on it because it would be in his best interest for longevity's case to keep him out.
For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you need to visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Final hour is upon us. Thanks for hanging out here on 104.5 The Zone. We're happy to have you. It's me and Jackson with you all week. Lucas will be back from vacation on Monday. The Tennessee Titans are out of a bye. Week 5 bye, one of 4 teams to take one. They get a little time to rest, recuperate. That's a good thing, question mark, because they have an injury at quarterback that they're trying to iron out. But I feel like a lot of people are still non-committal on which quarterback is the best quarterback that gives you a chance to win a game on Sunday. Now, Brian Callahan was asked yesterday off the top about Will Levis's status, dealing with the sprained AC joint. Said he hadn't thrown over the bye, said they were going to take it easy with him on Monday. They did have a practice yesterday. It was closed to media. We'll be back out there Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, so I'll be able to tell you what I see. And with Levis, basically what Callahan said, yeah, as long as he is healthy enough to do his job at a reasonable level, he's going to be our starting quarterback against the Colts, which has been the company line the entire time. 100%, if Will Levis is healthy, he's the starting quarterback. That's what Brian Callahan said after the Miami game, though Mason Rudolph came in and won the game, even though Will Levis technically gets credit for a win in that game because he was the starter. He finished halfway through through the first quarter before he sustained that injury. He was 3 of 4 for 25 yards and a pick. His league leading, or tied for league lead, 6 interceptions, 9 total giveaways by the Titans quarterback. It's the most by any player in the sport. And so they give him the bye week to get healthy. We'll see how healthy he ends up being. And the question becomes, all right, normally when you win, it cures a lot of things. It answers a lot of questions. How many things do you know about the Tennessee Titans after a win against the Miami Dolphins that you didn't know before they had a win on the season? Is there a single question that game answered to you?
No.
That's the problem with where they're at right now. Because basically, it's a question of, all right, how do you describe this team? What is their identity? And that's something that you have to figure out in real time, especially when you've got as many new pieces and parts for a team. It takes a couple of weeks to figure out, all right, who exactly is this team? What are they good at? What are they bad at? 1 month of the season is not enough time to make any kind of definitive declarations about them, but what have they shown you through the first month of regular season play? What one word would you use to describe the Tennessee Titans? Word association. 2024 Tennessee Titans, what comes to mind? You want to play this game?
Struggle.
Struggle?
Mm-hmm.
Mine would be, if I had to pick one word, and I won't cheat and use a hyphenated word, I just come back to frustrating. They are frustrating. And it's because the quarterback is frustrating. It doesn't answer any questions, even though you got the win, because Will Levis was not the player that went out and won that game. Mason Rudolph, well, really, Tony Pollard and the running game and the defense won the game, and you had no giveaways. After Will Levis went out of the game, though he did throw an interception before he exited the game, I don't have any further information on Will Levis, which is exactly the thing that I fear the most about this season. If you go the whole season and you still kind of when I ask you about Will Levis at the end of the year, and you just kind of throw your hands up and say, I don't know, that can't be how this season ends. You have to know definitively whether he is or isn't the best player to see this franchise into the future. Right now, it's trending in the wrong direction. He still has the opportunity to earn back some of that trust that he's lost from you and me and everybody in between. But frustrating, it's a basic word. So I see some comments in the F&M Bank chat where you can interact with us, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. You can also call 615-737-1045. I've got a couple, let's see, feeble, underwhelming. Somebody just says new, enigmatic. I like that word. That's a good word. If I wanted to pick a hyphenated word, I would have gone with head case, head-case, because I feel like all of these questions can be answered if you can figure out what's going on in the quarterback's head, and none of us but Will Levis can figure that out, not even his head coach. Their season to date, what are they? Brian Callahan was asked this question, and he gave a pretty good summary. Let's hear from the Titans head coach. This was the Tuesday after they beat the Miami Dolphins.
I think we're a really physical defense. I think we're aggressive and we fly around. We make life hard on opposing offenses. I think we're a good rushing football team. I think we're a physical front when it comes to running the ball. I think we're really when we play complementary football and we don't turn the ball over, we're going to be competitive as any team in football. We got to protect the ball better than we have, and I think we're a good play action team right now and a good screen team. So those things are things that I'm confident in, and we got to keep improving our drop back game, both in the protection portion and the overall success of it. It hasn't been good enough yet, so we got to keep that part rolling and keep working on that. But I'm happy with what we've shown so far. I think we're better than 1-3, but we're 1-3 at this point because of some mistakes we made, and we got to keep limiting those and letting our defense go play and complimenting them on offense.
Okay, so I'll buy off on a good bit of that. Right, they are a physical defense. They do fly around. I would add as a subtext though, or as a side note, their defense to me screams unsustainable because they do not have a pass rush. Now, I'm going to make the case later tonight on primetime for a player that they should trade for, since they didn't do what I wanted during training camp and trade for Matt Judon. The Falcons look to be the beneficiaries of that. I think if they want to legitimately compete this year and keep this defense on the right track, then they need to add a piece. And they're working out edge rushers. You had the reports of Terrell Lewis and who was the other one that they worked out yesterday?
Shaq Lawson.
Shaq Lawson. Thank you, Jackson. Aaron Wilson reported that Shaq Lawson and Terrell Lewis were in the building for workouts. I saw somebody make the joke in the comments, sign them both because they need it. Harold Landry cannot do this on his own. Jeff Simmons, I don't know what he's going to look like when he comes back from this elbow injury. I'm concerned about the idea of a defensive tackle with an elbow injury when part of your job is part of your power as a player. First, your power first comes from your lower body, right? Your explosiveness from your lower body helps you get into the chest of an offensive lineman. But then your ability to extend and shock and shed or swim move or what have you, just utilize your mobility, and in particular, the mobility from your elbow joints feels like a pretty critical thing for a defensive tackle, an interior defensive lineman. I don't know what Jeff's going to look like when he gets back. I know that Sweat has pass rush potential, but that hasn't shown itself yet. And again, Arden Key looks best as a rotational player, not as a starting outside linebacker, because Harold Landry is doing a lot of this on his own. They're not a super blitz-heavy defense on early downs. They wait to get you into third down, 3rd and 6+ before they start to send some creative stuff at you. They're playing a lot of man coverage. They don't give up explosive plays very often, which is a nice change of pace from what the Titans defense has been in the last couple of years, especially with how untimely some of those explosive plays seem to have been. And then as an offense, they're -7. Well, as a team, they're -7 in terms of turnover differential. They did get their first defensive turnover against the Dolphins, but it's them and the Raiders at the bottom of the league for turnover differential, -7. Levis has thrown 6 picks, he's fumbled 3 times, lost all 3 of those. And they, as an offense, are coming off a 30-point performance for the first time in 1,000+ days. But how many touchdowns would you say that as an offense, how many touchdowns are they averaging?
2 a game?
2 a game. It's not sufficient. There's like a 5-way tie at the bottom of the league for teams that are averaging 2 touchdowns a game, and the Titans are one of them. So how would you what is this team through the first month of the season, and what can be built upon there? I don't know what can be built upon with their offense besides, the running backs run hard, and this is a physical, confrontational, built to kick ass offensive line that is much better at run blocking than they are at pass blocking. And you saw how much better, frankly, the offense could operate with Mason Rudolph, who gets rid of the ball faster, who is more decisive than Will Levis. And it can protect the offensive line enough for you to get into reasonable drop back situations, though you're not going to be dropping back 40 times in a game with this particular offensive line group. The offense still wasn't good in Miami, right? It struggled. It took a weird circumstance for them to get to 30. Now, I'm not going to take it away from them. I can't. I wouldn't, because it was 38 straight games without a 30-plus point performance, and they finally got it done. But frustrating is the word that I'm going to stick with. I liked A.J. Parkinson's word in the chat where he called them enigmatic. They are enigmatic because I don't have any more questions answered about them after the bye, after the first win of the season, than I did prior to that Miami game kicking off. 615-737-1045 is how you chime in if you would like. We'll get to your phone calls in a second. We'll also take a look at the AFC South and what happened over the weekend, what specifically impacts the Titans. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Rain-X Premium Silicone Advantage wiper blades are engineered to withstand the most extreme conditions. Rain-X Premium Silicone Advantage wiper blades last 2 times longer than traditional wipers. For a limited time, save $16 per pair on Rain-X Silicone Advantage wiper blades, plus get 2 times O rewards at O'Reilly Auto Parts. And when you purchase the blades with O'Reilly, their professional parts people will install them for free. O'Reilly Auto Parts is celebrating the 25th anniversary of their famous jingle, and they want you to get in on the action. We all know how it goes. The jingle itself, we want you to submit a cover of the jingle, a remix, or your own choreographed dance. You can win exclusive merch and prizes, including 3 $5,000 prize winners from O'Reilly Auto Parts. Submit your video to O'ReillyJingleContest.com now through October 31st. Terms and conditions apply. No purchase necessary. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. 615-737-1045 is the number. We're going to go through the AFC South results from the weekend and see how it impacted the Titans. I did ask for your phone calls. How would you define this team coming out of their Week 5 bye? It's all gas, no brakes the rest of the way through. Whether you end up taking advantage of it or not, of course, remains to be seen, but they will not. There's no Thursday night football. There's no long weeks for Monday night. This is 17, or I guess not 17, but it is the remainder of the NFL schedule with no breaks for this team to be able to try and capitalize on what it is that they may or may not have figured out in Miami. That's the problem with the way that game was won and the circumstances around that win is I don't have any more questions answered about the Tennessee Titans in a win than I did through the first 3 weeks of the season because the crux of the issue is quarterback. And we still don't have any clarity at quarterback. So we'll invite your phone call. 615-737-1045 is the number. If you want to join in, let's go to Randy up next.
Hey, Buck. I think for me, when I'm looking at the first 4 games of the season, on the defensive side of the ball, I really think what we could have said that we've learned from Miami is that Green Bay was an outlier. That Wilson is definitely a high-caliber defensive coordinator, and this defense can scheme and play to the best of its ability when it's supposed to. Yes, it was Snoop Huntley, but the defense did exactly what they were supposed to do against an offense that's been struggling all season. And I think as far as what do we see the whole team as right now, for me over the first 4 games, it's been the Titans of old. It's been great defense and average to above average running. So for me, Austin Stanley has even said on A to Z that Week 5 being a bye week is a great spot because it lets Brian Callahan, as a first-time head coach, see what's gone right and see what's gone wrong and a chance to change it and turn it around early. So I'll let you expound on that. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I like that. I hadn't heard that point from Austin, but I like that because he does need some time to get his feet under him just the same way that his offense needs some time to get its feet under it. So I like the idea of him being able to have a moment of zen, to take some time to really dig in on what specifically Levis, within the scope of the scheme, within the scope of the offense, can and cannot do, because he's running Joe Burrow's offense and he's not Joe Burrow. And it's okay if it took them 4 games to figure that out, as long as it looks more fluid, I guess, on the other side is the way that I would describe it. The starts and stops, the amount of 3 and outs that they seem to just compile throughout the course of a game, the boneheaded mistakes that you attribute to the quarterback, but also some of the stuff that can be made easier on the quarterback, defining more of these throws for Will Levis and understanding that Joe Burrow is not his quarterback anymore. And that Treylon Burks, though he's a former first-round pick, is not somebody that you want to give increased playing time to, based on what we've seen Treylon Burks do with increased playing time, and how to better find ways to make this offense not seamless. It's probably never going to be seamless, or at least not this year, but as seamless as humanly possible, and get the quarterback as comfortable as humanly possible, because I do think that some onus should go to the coaching staff for not making sufficient enough adjustments around Levis through the first 4 weeks. Again, play calling is not something that I'm qualified to criticize. It's not something that you're qualified to criticize. Nobody besides people who do this for a living, as far as coaches go, and are in the meeting rooms to understand the full scope of the schematics that they're trying to execute, are qualified to criticize play calling. But there are some things about the Titans offense it feels like could be made easier, or just the idea of going back to plays that work. Like, you don't have to run the full scope of the playbook or everything that you game plan for the week. If you find some stuff that's working and the defense is struggling to stop it, it's okay to just stick with it from time to time. Make them stop you before you try and change things up. Now, the play action game, the screen game, does feel like they're making some progress in that direction. There is progress from Will Levis, which makes the results of this that much more frustrating. when you take a look at how he's played versus the mistakes that he's more so being defined by. 615-737-1045 is how you join the conversation. We'll get back to the phone calls here in just a second. So we played you that clip earlier about what the Titans are right now, and Brian Callahan detailed what he thought they were good at. Now, the caller brought up the defense in particular, and he mentioned Denard Wilson as a good defensive coordinator. I do think that Denard Wilson is an asset. I don't think that this defense is sustainable. I think that they need to add legitimate pieces Bert brought this up. I don't think it was live on primetime. I think it was while we were getting ready for primetime last night. But Yannick Ngakoue is on the Ravens practice squad. Guys like that are out there to be had. This team is in desperate need of edge help, and I don't know if it shouldn't be a financial question based on what's available to you on the market. You don't have to give up. I'll go back and look up what Matt Judon's price was here in just a second for him to be traded from the Patriots to the Falcons, but that was a good move by the Falcons, and it's one that I wanted the Titans to make. I don't think that they can sustain this defense. I don't think that the anomaly in Green Bay, or not in Green Bay, but the anomaly against Green Bay that the caller brought up is the tackling. The missed tackling is the biggest reason why they could not get a stop against Malik Willis. Jackson, what was the compensation for Matt Judon?
2025 third-round pick.
Conditional at all?
Does not say.
Okay. It's not going to cost that to get the kind of help that the Titans need. Matt Judon is not available out there to be had, but there are options for you, and they are working out players to try and increase the viability of this defense because they know that they're having to lean more on their defense right now while the offense gets up to speed. The rest of the AFC South is worth paying attention to here as well because, is there a more embarrassing streak in professional football than the Colts? The Colts have not won a game in Jacksonville. The Jags are terrible. They're the worst team in football. I know they have a win now. I know they're 1-4, but they are the worst team in football. The Colts have not. Jackson, I was a sophomore in college. No, a junior in college. The last time the Indianapolis Colts went to Jacksonville and won a football game, 2014. It's the most embarrassing streak in the sport. It may be the most embarrassing streak in professional sports right now.
Yeah, I was a freshman in high school.
It's egregious. How? And Flacco did everything in his power. They had 24 points in the fourth quarter. Flacco damn near willed them back to a win, but Jacksonville did enough to hang on. And now the Jags are 1-4. You are 1-3 at this point. So by nature of having one more loss, because the Titans have not yet played their fifth game of the season, the Jags are lower than you in the division standings. Colts are 2-3 now, having dropped that game in Jacksonville and Houston. That's the best that C.J. Stroud has looked. He was excellent. I know the Bills gave away the game. I know that Josh Allen was probably out there playing with a concussion. I haven't seen any discussion or reporting around the league investigating that further because I couldn't believe they put him back out there. C.J. Stroud was exactly what you want them to be, what you wanted him to be. And maybe not what you wanted him to be if you're a Titans fan or a Colts fan or a Jags fan because he's going to haunt you, it seems, for the next decade plus in the AFC South, provided that he stay healthy and stay with the Texans. But he was excellent. 28 of 38, 331 yards. He took one sack, didn't lose any yardage on the sack, though. Had a touchdown, did throw a pick, but the way that he was diagnosing, but isolating and eliminating, going through his progressions against the Bills, the way that he was able to adapt, the angles that he was making some of these throws from, I don't think you get one of those players in every draft class. I don't. You get, or at least not one of those kind of quarterbacks in every draft class. I don't think you're guaranteed to get a great player at the quarterback position in every draft class. If that was the case, Trevor Lawrence would be better in Jacksonville. The wild card opportunity for Tennessee still very much in play. It's too early to punt on the season, even though you feel pretty lousy at 1-3, because it's not like you beat any kind of a world beater in the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins are wretched, and the only reason they won a game is because the Patriots are worse. Coming off this weekend, how things stack up in the AFC South, whether this ends up being the level of competitive we thought it might be, I think it's too early to make that determination. Through the first month, the AFC South has been stinky, save the Texans. The Texans are one of the best teams in football. I don't know how many teams are actually good in the AFC just generally. This feels like a weaker conference than it did a year ago, no?
Yes. It feels like a much weaker.
If I had to pick teams that I think are legitimately good in this conference right now, I don't know that I could go more than 6. The Bills are legitimately good. As long as you have Josh Allen, as long as Josh Allen is reasonably healthy, you are good. I think the Ravens and the Bengals, despite the Bengals being 1-4, their offense is excellent. They have one of the best offenses in professional football this year. I don't know if the Bengals are going to end up making the playoffs. 1-4 is a really bad hole to have to dig out of, especially when you have the Ravens and the Steelers sitting atop that division right now. The Ravens are on a 3-win streak at this point and look excellent because they can beat you in a variety of different ways. But if I say Bills, Ravens, Bengals, Texans, Chiefs, that might be it. As far as teams, I mean, I don't, the Steelers are plus 19 in their turnover differential. They're 3-2 on the season. They're getting by with the Justin Fields experience. I don't trust that, though. I just don't think there's that many good teams in the AFC right now through the first month, which is why I'm saying it's too early to make any kind of determination.
Yeah, the Steelers I'm not buying in on either. They're also on a 2-game losing streak.
The Bills should have won that game.
Yeah, it was horrible clock management.
The coaching malpractice at the end of that game, it's the worst decision I thought a coach made in college or pro football this weekend with what Sean McDermott did at the end of that game, throwing 3 times. I mean, two of those could have been interceptions. And then giving the ball back to the Houston Texans with just enough time for them to eke out a game-winning field goal in that spot. It was absolutely egregious. Do you know how many teams in the AFC South have a positive turnover differential? Or point differential, rather.
1.
None.
Not
a single team. Don't? The Texans are negative 12 in their point differential. Texans are negative 12. Colts are minus 3. Titans are minus 11. Jags are minus 46. They are being outscored right now 97 points for, 143 points against. And the defense is what you thought was going to be a significantly improved unit for Jacksonville this year. Chiefs are are undefeated at this point. They remain undefeated, and they're surviving a lot of the attrition that's going on right now. But there is no question, somebody on the YouTube chat says that the Bills pissed away that game. I think that the Bills are still a good enough team. The problem with Buffalo, to me, is how thin they are at wide receiver. That's starting to get exposed. But for the Titans, man, it should feel like you have the opportunity to get back in this thing, but why doesn't it? I just keep coming back to Will Levis.
Yeah, you don't know anything about your quarterback, and what you've seen to this point is that he has been more of a minus than a plus.
It's too early to give up on them. You shouldn't leave them for dead. I think they can get better as a football team. How much better, though, is the question, and specifically, how much better can the quarterback play be? Here's the thing, because I know this conversation was had ad nauseum while I was out last week. The player that gives you the best chance to win on Sunday. Can you look 52 other NFL football players in that locker room, in the Titans locker room, and say, Will Levis gives us the best chance to win a football game on Sunday? I don't know that you can say that. Now you're going to, and if you're going to put him out there, if he's healthy, it's not like the locker room is soured on him just yet, though I think if he throws another ghastly interception or has another maniac moment, you're going to have a hard time convincing people. And this is such a critically important game. Such a critically important game to keep their season alive. How much different do things feel at 2-3 than how the season started at 0-3?
Very different. You feel like, next week we can get back potentially to 500. That'd be huge.
And Buffalo on the road is tough, and Detroit on the road is tough. I mean, that Ford Field is going to be the most hostile environment. I mean, those are two of the most hostile environments that they'll play in all year long because Bills fans are crazy and Lions fans are insane. Every game in that stadium right now feels like the Super Bowl. But the fact that I can't discernibly say, like I can't tell Titans fans with a straight face, yeah, you're trending in the right direction. You have momentum here. You have something to build upon. I can't tell them definitively that they have something to build upon when the thing that went out of the lineup and probably, I mean, I don't know how much Mason Rudolph did his job. Mason Rudolph didn't turn the ball over. Mason Rudolph helped them win a game. You have 7 scoring drives orchestrated by Mason Rudolph, and they're field goals, and they're, some of them are 21 yards, some of them are 27 yards on the scoring drive, whatever, but he got it done, and that's what he does. The right decision, the correct decision for what this season is really about is to start Will Levis on Sunday if he's healthy enough. But I don't think I could make that decision. This is why I'm not. I mean, there's a great many reasons why I'm not an NFL head coach or a coach at any level. But I don't know that I would put him out there on Sunday. I don't think that he gives them the best chance to win a football game. And I know that Mason Rudolph's a career backup. But I trust Mason Rudolph to do his job and do his job well enough to not jeopardize their ability to win a football game. And I can't say that about the other guy. It's not an easy decision that this coaching staff has to make. I'm sure I think I brought it up at some point yesterday, the idea of, them continuing to stand 10 toes down on the idea of Will Levis. And if he's healthy, he's 100% our starting quarterback or whatever. My response to that is we'll see. Because that shouldn't be a season-long statement if it doesn't improve. He has to improve. His decision-making has to improve. His timing has to improve. His accuracy has to improve. And he's not the only problem that they have, but the offensive line didn't have near the struggles that they did with Mason Rudolph behind them as they did with Will Levis. I think Will Levis contributes to the problems that they have.
He does run into pressure a lot. Especially when he's stepping up into the pocket, it feels like he's running into pressure at times.
Somebody on YouTube, J-Rob 1742, says, you trust Mason because he's a vet. It's simple. But there's no way you're right. That's why my decision, if you let me be in charge of these things, I put Mason Rudolph out there. The AFC South is not there to be won. It's the Texans' division to lose. But you can still stay in the weak middle of this AFC and try and scrounge out a wild card. If that is ultimate, if your goal is the playoffs, it's still on the table, even though it's mathematically very, very difficult at 1-3. This AFC South game is the most important game that they have on their schedule to date. I know the next game is always the most important game, but this is the most important game. And if my job was on the line for wins and losses, I don't know that I could make that decision as a coaching staff to put him back out there. But the problem with it is, how is he supposed to get better if you don't play him? And that's what this season is ultimately about. So I'm of two minds on this. I need to take a position. I need to stick to a position, but I'm trying to adapt to as much information as is available. The problem is there's not enough information to make that decision just yet. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to get involved. Like I said, you can also interact with the chat. AJ says, stop that. The line looked better against Miami. They stink. Miami's front does not stink. Jalen Phillips going out of that game did make them a worse defensive front, but they don't stink as a defense. When your offense doesn't score, when your offense is Tyler Huntley on a short week and Tyreek Hill being missed on wide open shot plays, then yeah, your defense is going to struggle because you can't do anything. You know what that life is when you can't score, how much everything else is magnified. Vidal says, do you really want to start over with a rookie talking about next year? I mean, yeah, listen, if that's the choice, if it's ride it out with the unknown or the guy that you're kind of half in, half out on, if that's Levis at the end of the year, hell yes. You keep turning that position over until you get it right. At least that would be my approach. Darren is up next. Hey, Darren.
on what you guys were saying about let's say we start Rudolph and we beat the Colts, and we get this glimmer of hope that maybe we can sneak into the divisional race a little bit. If that falls apart, can we backtrack and put Levis in to finish the year, or is the situation just completely blanked at that point?
No, you don't win games with one and then pull the one that's winning for the other.
That was my question, and I appreciate it, guys.
Thanks for the call, Derek. Yeah, I mean, reasonably, you can't do that to the locker room. I understand that from the perspective of the fan base, hey, we've survived this. Now let's keep trying and see if it can't get better. I just don't think it's not fair to the quarterbacks. It's not fair to the locker room. I just don't think you can make that decision as a coach. Last call for phone calls. If you got them, 615-737-1045 is the number. I'm Buck Rising. It's 1045 The Zone.
I love living in Middle Tennessee. We've got great restaurants, entertainment, sports, and one of the nation's top Ford dealers right here in our backyard. Two Rivers Ford. Remember that name. Two Rivers has been a staple in our community since 1983. They're locally owned. They have a non-commissioned sales team, and they sell below MSRP. They've been doing business with integrity for decades. Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer.
Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. 615-737-1045 is the number. Last call for phone calls if you got them. Did you see that the news of the day, Robert Saleh, we haven't talked about it in a while because we pivoted to more locally centric things, but Robert Saleh, the Jets head coach, got fired today. According to reports, he did not even get the chance to meet with players to inform them of the firing. He was escorted out by security.
Woof.
This is from Mike Florio. Saleh was escorted out of the building by the team's director of security. However, Connor Hughes of SNY is reporting that multiple sources told him that Saleh was not escorted out of the facility by team security. So there's conflicting reports on that. Adam Gase was not, when the last Jets coach was fired this way, Adam Gase didn't receive the same treatment when he was fired after the COVID season. Rich Cimini at ESPN is reporting that Saleh was stunned, showed up at the team's facility on Tuesday thinking it was business as usual to begin preparations for a Monday night football game. There is a statement now from the Jets. That is hilarious. Not for Saleh, obviously, that's bad. But the Jets, poverty franchise. You're not going to get better. I'm not saying that Saleh should have kept his job, but the way that the Jets do their business, poverty franchise. To the phones. Let's go to Reggie up first. Hey, Reggie.
What's happening? You know, I'll tell you, man, what goes on in the locker room, these guys are professionals. Coach, you don't have to look them in the face and feel guilty about saying nothing. He's going to tell them how it is, and they're gonna accept it. They're professionals. If they don't, they're going to be escorted out of the building. So, you know. No,
Reggie, not in today's NFL. I mean, it's like, I mean, are you seeing what's going on with the Raiders? Max Crosby is saying of Devontae Adams' trade request, yeah, that's just how things go here. Like, that's not modern-day football. That's not how this thing works anymore.
What, a guy requesting a trade?
With handling players the way that you're describing, it's not a coach handing on an edict from on high. All those coaches got cleared out in the last hiring cycle. Bill Belichick doesn't have a job because he's that kind of coach.
No, I don't think. See, what you're saying is, I don't think players will think it. All right, you probably have to play the game. You know, you have to have been in a locker room. What I'm saying, if a coach tells the players, "Hey, this guy gives us the best chance to win long term," he's not playing against backups. He's not playing at the end of the season when guys are trying to protect their players. This guy that we are starting gives us the best chance to win long term, and we are going to go with him. Guys aren't going to say, I got to go, trade me. No, man, they're going to get out there and play football, man.
So I guess you're referencing Levis, but Levis and Rudolph specifically are the quarterback discussion, and I mean, I just don't think that that's how all players work. I think that's a very and I've been in locker rooms for 8 years. Like this is it's not necessarily about playing the game. You talk to players all the time. You develop relationships with these guys, and it's not quite as cut and dry as I think you're making it. Now, the problem is, are they putting the player, I guess the crux of the question is, are they putting the player out there that gives them the best chance to succeed? I don't know that you can tell that locker room that it's Will Levis right now. I wouldn't be able to. I don't think I could make a convincing enough argument that Will Levis would give them the best chance to succeed right now based on the sample size, if I'm understanding your question correctly, Reggie. Dr. Detroit up next. What's happening, Doc?
Hey, how you guys doing? Hey, I paid money on the table, and my Louisville Cardinal, Teddy Bridgewater, is coming out of retirement. He'll be starting for the Titans Sunday.
So by Sunday, they'll get him off the high school sidelines that quickly just to get him out in a Titans uniform, huh?
Absolutely. I got some pull, buddy. I got some pull. No, but anyway, is there any floaters, quarterbacks possibly available? And I don't know Levis's contract. I don't know when's the deadline for chasing out players and so forth.
Trade deadline is first week of November.
Well, that's not too far away now, is it? Any rumors at this time?
Well, Doc, I think that, if you're asking about available quarterbacks, Ryan Tannehill's still out there. Levis, it would shock me if Levis was traded. if that's what you're implying. I haven't heard anything to that effect. I haven't heard about them acquiring another quarterback. It's kind of this season, Will Levis or bust. You don't help your team at that point by making that big of a change. You're not going to bring somebody in out off the couch, essentially, for this type of team just to, cobble together 2 or 3 more wins than you might otherwise have. I just don't think that's a viable approach. Now, if you determine that Levis is not viable at the end of the year, then yeah, trade him. I mean, you saw teams move young quarterbacks all over the place. All right, I missed the polls yesterday. We got to do the polls today. Jackson, give me some polls.
These are the polls, and they're presented by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. What in sports made you say, oh, no, this week? Tim, the Titans fan, says the guys at SEC Network not having a finger on the dump button because no one expected Diego Pavia to drop an F-bomb immediately after praising the Lord.
That was the funniest part of that, is he starts attributing the success to a higher power, and immediately drops an F-bomb, an S-bomb. And listen, I'm not mad at Diego Pavia. I can't imagine what he was feeling in that moment. An electric win over Vanderbilt. Alyssa Lang, consummate professional, the sideline reporter for that game. She managed the situation really, really well. A few expletives dropped in the postgame after Vanderbilt beat Alabama, and understandably so.
Who are the best 4 teams in the AFC right now? Karen going Chiefs, Texans, Ravens, Bills. That's a common answer. Kansas City, Baltimore, Houston, Buffalo.
Yeah, that's probably still the situation that they would have each and every week. It feels like that's just becoming more and more defined as we work our way through the AFC part of the schedule.
Can anyone fix the Jets? 75% say no, 25% say yes.
I don't think anybody's capable of fixing the Jets. The Jets are godforsaken. The Jets are cursed. And Aaron Rodgers is going to run that thing further and further into the ground because what does he care? He's only going to play for 1 more year tops.
What one word describes the Titans through the first month of the season? Ryan going with bad. Andrew going with misunderstood. And what are your thoughts?
Enigmatic feels right. I'm going to steal A.J. Parkinson's comment from the chat earlier.
Who's the most fraudulent team in the AP Top 25? Danny going with Mizzou or Michigan. Missouri is a common answer. And Leroy says Texas has not played nobody.
No, that's dumb. Texas is the best team in the country. Texas is the only team I know anything definitively about. Michigan and Missouri get the hell out of the top 25. Those the polls?
Those are the polls.
Excellent. That's the show. Stay tuned. There will be more discussion, college and pro, coming up next. You got Zach and Blaine. You got 3HL after that. I'll talk to you not tonight on prime time because I'm off. Wednesday at 10 a.m. We'll be back at it. We'll have Chris Doring of the SEC Network. We'll have Greg Cosell. We'll do the install live. See you then.